something that if you lose it like in your browser history, I guess.
I know, it was a long story. Anyway, I closed it way too early. Don't do that. Save it a little.
Like in your browser history, I guess.
So, welcome everybody. This is the 21st of February, 2023. This is our EMEA Americas timed orchestration demo. And Steve, you have the first item, the first demo item, in fact.
Yeah, we'll see how much of a demo it is. It might just be a glance at the code. But I've been working on some notifications for the extended maintenance policy for package and test failures. And so I think it was in this meeting, we had kind of come up with two solutions. One was when the package and test fails, add a comment to the MR pinging the author. And then two was when someone approves the MR, like after the initial review, ping that person saying, hey, we need to make sure that the package and test job is successful. And so I guess my first question was, after kind of looking at them, like, do we want both? Because they are, it's kind of a repetitive message, but it does engage different people at least. Which I think is good if we really want to make sure, since the test isn't blocked from failing or anything like that. But it was just a question to raise. And we can jump in to the first one, which unfortunately the pipeline hasn't finished yet. So we don't have a comment yet to look at. But I'll share my
the comment
screen.
is coming from the pipeline itself?
Yes. Let me share. Which one is it? This one. Okay. So this kind of parallels the failure notification that we have for the main pipeline that notifies Slack. So anytime the master pipeline fails, or now a stable branch fails on a commit message or on a commit MR, a commit pipeline, then Slack will be notified. So here we kind of do a similar thing, but instead of notifying Slack, we add a comment to the merge request. So what we're saying here, if we look at the rules, is if the merge request is targeting stable and fails, we allow the failure to happen. And what we do then is we run this script, which is generate failed package and test message. And so if we look at that script, all it's going to do is, let's start at the bottom so we can see when it runs. So yeah, we run execute on this class, nothing too fancy. The only option really is the API token that is already part of the pipeline. But all we're going to do is check if the package and test job has failed. And then if it did, add a comment to the MR. So nothing too crazy or complicated here. We just have a very simple markdown message saying, hey, author, the package and test job has failed, with links to the pipeline and the package and test pipeline. And then instructions to ping the software and test, or software engineer and test. So that's what this merge request does. And that'll happen, I think, on every failure, which is good. So if it's flaky, we missed it the first time, it'll still comment the second time. The other merge request is, let's see, using the bot. And so this runs very much like the approval message that you see when you first approve an MR and it kicks off the new pipeline. This is kind of the same idea. So let's go to the actual class, and actually we don't need. So in this one, all we're doing is saying that when the target branch is a stable branch and it's coming from GitLab, and we skip certain file changes like doc changes and things like that. And this, as long as this comment hasn't been posted previously, we go ahead and post this comment, which notifies the approver and says, thanks for approving. This is the first time it's approved. Please make sure that the package and test job has succeeded. I think the only thing I don't like about this is the person that approved is like, okay, I just approved, I'm done. And then it pings them and says, hey, keep an eye on this test that is still running possibly, or that's going to run. And so I'm not sure about that as being the best way to notify someone, but was curious about your overall thoughts on both of those.
I have a question. So this thing runs on a schedule, right? So it's not reactive to the immediate approval, or is it a webhook?
No, I think this is a hook. This
Yeah,
is
it
the
is
same
reactive.
as the it's when it reacts to the approvals.
Okay, so it's immediate, right? So you approve and you're still on the page and the thing shows up. Okay.
Yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah, it
quickly.
is the same experience as when approving any other merge request on the GitLab repository. You get like a message like, hey, thank you for approving. We are going to execute the full pipeline and make sure that it finishes.
That was my follow-up question then, which is how is the so the package and test is a manual job, isn't it?
Not on the stable
No.
branches.
Oh, that's
No,
on
it
the stable
runs-
branch. So
Yeah.
if it targets the stable branch, every single commit will run it, even if you keep
Yes.
rebasing and adding stuff. Okay. I thought there was this concern from quality about the load of this, and so they wanted to have this always manual.
Yeah, I think that was the concern, but then when we looked at the rules, it's already set. It was set to run always beforehand, so it's already set like that. So we just didn't change it, and we checked with them, and they said,
"Okay, cool,
that's fine. We can adjust if we need to."
So next step then. This thing may. So if someone is going to approve something and the pipeline is still running, they will receive this message. Fine. But if the pipeline is already done and green, they will receive the message as well. Correct?
Yes.
So the first time it gets
will be
approved,
posted no matter what when it gets approved.
Okay.
And since, I mean, I guess the main reason behind all of this is that even though the package and test runs, it is allowed to fail. So the idea is we want to raise awareness that hey, potentially you could still merge this, but we need someone to check the failure if there is one. So we want to raise awareness to make sure someone is looking at this pipeline.
Yeah, because I was going to say, what is the actionable items for the maintainers? So probably just maybe we want to post a discussion instead of a message, so that it prevents the merging, right? So
yeah, you have to resolve it.
Yeah, so it's kind of, now there's an extra step because I'm trying to get into the workflow of a maintainers, right? So you're maintainers, this is all new to you. You look at the things, it looks good. Pipeline are still running, but so yeah, I'm gonna do merge when pipeline approves, right? Because it kind of feels like I'm doing, right? So, but here there's an extra step, which is that job will run, may fail, but it has to be green in order for you to merge, right? So it's allowed to fail, but it's not. And so maybe in that sense, if we open a discussion, by default, it will prevent, will it? I think it will, even in that case.
Yeah, I mean,
because if you open a discussion, yeah. Now, because say if you set merge when pipeline succeeded, then you open a discussion, I think the GitLab will reevaluate the mergeability of the merge request at merge time. So it will be prevented. So in that sense, it feels more actionable, right? So that's kind of, open a discussion and you close it when the package is the test is green.
Right. Okay. So I think then, yes, keeping both comments makes sense. This one we can open as a discussion so that it forces, because, you know, this is right after the first approval. So then the maintainer gets assigned and then they will see this very quickly when they start reviewing. And then
we can change the wording a tiny bit and say like this: feel free to resolve this conversation when that job is successful, right. Something like this, right?
And then the other one that only pings on a failure, that one we might still want to keep as a comment, because if we run the merge, like if we set merge and pipeline succeeds and we know it's going to fail, we don't want it to start a discussion that's going to stop the merge. So I'll keep this one as a comment. The failure message is a comment, and then the other one is a discussion.
Why we are going to keep the first one as a comment instead of a discussion?
Because it's a failure.
Yes.
Oh, no, but it's a failure. No, you're right. It is not a real failure. So it will not prevent the merge in any case.
Yeah, if the package and test fails, it's not going to prevent the merge. So we need to prevent it. And I think both of them at the end should be discussions, because we want to get the attention of either the merge request author or the reviewer or maintainer to say, hey, something failed. We need to take action from you. So yeah.
Well, I guess the scenario I'm imagining is it fails. The engineer and test says, hey, that failure is fine. We can merge it. So then all the discussions get resolved. The maintainer starts a new pipeline, hits merge when pipeline succeeds. And then this gets posted again as a new discussion because package and test fails. And then that stops the merge because it's an unresolved thread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see how there might be different paths, but it is also a bit hard to imagine all the scenarios. So I am also thinking that we can leave both comments and leave them as discussions, and then we can gather feedback on the internal testing that we are going to do. And if it turns out to be so very noisy and not a very productive workflow, we can readjust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward to switch from a comment to discussion. It's just a tweak to the
I would also
API.
say, I would also say something that this new message, the one for the author, it should not be allowed to fail, because the job runs only on failure. So if that discussion being created is the only thing that prevents the thing to be merged, then in case for any reason you're going to generate a message because it failed, right? So if you can't generate the message, you should fail the pipeline.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay.
Steve, do you still have concerns about pipelines being blocked? If we start with both as discussions and gather feedback, do you think we're leaving a gap?
No, I think we'll see what happens, I suppose, with the I think the only one that I was concerned about is the one that comments on a failure if we're merging knowing that a failure is going to happen. Or sorry, if it opens a discussion on a failure, but we know a failure is going to happen, if that would be disruptive or not.
It might be a bit disruptive, but it is also very easy to fix. Like you just need to solve the threat, and then the merge request can be merged.
But so this one, like, so if I'm the maintainer and I click the pipeline to start, it might be an hour or two before the failure happens because that package and test pipeline is kind of long. So it might be like, like who's around to hit it before the pipeline ends.
Got it, but you still will receive like a notification, right? They are going to receive like a to-do and an email, and
only who runs the pipeline receive the failed pipeline notification, I think. So if say you are the author of the merge request and it failed on your merge request, then you get the email and the to-do items that the pipeline failed. But if you are the maintainer and you say, I'm approving, I'm rerunning the pipeline because it's been a long time, so I want to rerun before, and then approve. In that case, the notification should be received only to the maintainers that owns the pipeline.
Mhm.
But then we
I-
have the failure message that Steve made in the first merge request that will notify also the author.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah, so they both get notified on the failure. It's just
And
a
I think,
matter of someone being online to click resolve before the pipeline ends then.
yeah, I think this is a problem that we already have on merge request targeting the default branch. Sometimes someone comments on a merge request and that prevents the merging, and then the author has to ping someone else. I don't think this is a problem that we are going to solve exclusively for target branches because it is already present on other type of merge requests. Since pipelines take considerable long time to execute and people can comment and etc.
We should also say that the speed of development of stable branches is not the speed of development of master. So
Mhm.
That's a
probably
good
it's
point.
not really worth to actually rerun the pipeline as a maintainer unless you have because the widget tells you how many commits you are behind, right? So unless you are actually behind, well, the pipeline result will be the same.
Right.
That's
Mm.
true.
Yeah, that's a good point. We could definitely
Saves
note
hours, a lot of hours.
So I guess like, what's the safest? What's the option that we are confident catches all the gaps, even if it possibly ends up being noisy? Because I think that's an easier position to gather feedback and adjust from. Is that having them as both as discussions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, both as discussions, and then I'll remove this allow failure so that if for some reason it doesn't get commented, it's noisy as well.
Because I think that's a pretty easy one to, once people are maybe more comfortable with the process as well. If it becomes too noisy, great, we can change it, but it's probably easier than people missing stuff by mistake. So
Cool.
cool.
All right, that helps me make those final decisions here before I get these finished up.
Cool. Myra, you've got next point.
Yeah, thank you. So there have been some discussions about the maintenance policy rollout plan, and I wanted to share them with you so we are all on the same page and for you to be aware of this. So the maintenance policy itself is going to be extended on the 16th, a major release, because from the product side, it works better. We are going to have a dedicated patch release on the 16th for 16, 15, 11, and 15.10. So that will bring our active versions in par or with the align with the new maintenance policy. And also starting with 15.10, engineers are going to be able to merge into stable branches. And this is basically to gather early feedback on tools and processes. And this does not modify the maintenance policy so far because release managers are going to only do patch releases for the current active version, which in that case, it will be 15.10 or 15.11. And of course, since this is a big change for all of us, not only for GitLab users, but also for GitLab customers, the plan is to have recurrent reminders and announcements, internal and external, throughout 15.10 and 15.11. And yeah, there are a lot of more details in the issue. But yeah, this is basically something very summarized.
When you say that the beta testing starts with 5 or 15.10, does that mean that if we have a patch in for 15.9, those are the ones that we will merge into 15.9 stable?
No, it will be kind of switching to the new process because we are going to open up stable branches, but it will be, well, yes, people will be able to merge into stable branches, but patch releases will only be done for the current stable version. So we are on the 15.10, patch releases will only be done for 15.10. 15.10,
Okay.
yes.
So we'll start accumulating fixes, but we will not actually release them when we run through the patch release until after 16.0 has been released.
Yeah.
But then we will get an exception request for sure, and we'll end up doing fetch anyway.
This is what I was asked about on that issue, Myra. I think we should figure out what the different scenarios will be. I don't think we only have the option of it being a patch release right after the 22nd. I think we should consider what other options we have for gathering up those fixes. And then we will surely get exception requests, or we'll be doing security releases, or it might just be worth figuring out like what are the options and how can we handle, like what's the easiest way to do it, basically.
Yeah, good point, Amy. That I wasn't thinking about the security releases. So they will start merging things, but then the first security releases that came in will ship those changes, which is a side effect that is expected by this extension, because we say it goes in the direction of allowing security releases to also include bug fixes, which was agreed upon. But this, as soon as we open the stable branches, this will affect the security releases.
Yep.
And we will do, so the next AMA is on the 15th of March. We've just moved it back 1 week just because Michele and I are both out on the 8th. But that actually times really nicely with lining up 1 week before 1510. So we'll also theme that around the maintenance policy extension. It won't exclusively be that, but when we announce things and share process changes, we can also encourage people to come chat to us in our AMA. Cool. Do you need anything for the rollout planning, Myra?
No, I am basically keeping an eye on all the conversations and trying to put together all the pieces so we can have a solid plan. It's a lot of collaborations, and I am discussing this with Sam regarding the timing of the dedicated patch release for the maintenance policy, and also how can we do the announcements. And we are thinking also of doing a blog post on some ideas to publicize this.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good. And if it feels like there's a lot going on there, don't forget this is going to take place over a few months. So as long as we have everything we need for the 1510 step, we're in a good place, and it gives us another month to get everything ready for the 1511 step. So we may, like, for example, the actual patch release or whatever we do on 16.0, we don't need to know all the details for that right now, because that will be in a few months. So if that makes it easier, then go that way as well.
I have a question. So did we find an agreement with AppSec on how to manage the bug fix about to manage the blog posts for bug fixes included in security releases? Because they do the blog posts themselves, but in that case, how will they know about
they have a section? Actually, I saw one the other day. We should make sure we've got a good process for them knowing, but there is we did one quite recently. Just give me 1 sec.
Yeah, we did that. I think it was
like
a month ago,
section.
and they added another section like, hey, these are bug fixes that are not security fixes, and they listed the merge requests.
Yeah, my question was more about, we have the automation to generate the thing for the regular patches. So did we figure it out how we actually, so as a release manager running the process, how we are going to feed that values, that list of fixes into the AppSec process, because they are in control.
Yeah, I can create another issue for this and ping AppSec to start a discussion about this.
I think would be better from us if we start with a proposal more than a discussion, right? So something that is easier, because they do a lot of manual things and also automated things. But because we invested in the automation for this, probably we should try to give them, we have this, we can generate this. How can we then provide this information to you, right? So.
Yeah, and they do actually just stick it as a section. So maybe we can almost just generate them that section. So I've just linked one that had a bunch of non-security fixes in. I assume this is there.
How are you visualizing this, Alessio? Like people merging into stable branches and then the security release comes in, and then we say there is a step somewhere in the security template when we say to apps, hey, these are the bug fixes that should be on the blog post. I am getting your idea right?
Yeah, something like this, right? So what I'm thinking is that mirroring will be in place up until we start merging the security things, right? So basically, if we run the blog post generation before starting merging, our automation will working on the canonical repo will find all the commits that were merged there, and produce some sort of a blurb that we can send them and say, yeah, that's the extra content. Because then as soon as we have this, we start merging, and then it will break mirroring, and so no extra things can get into the release. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Cool. Cool. And then I've sort of a question on 4, which is how are we getting on with the beta testing?
Well, just to clarify, the beta testing is the one that we are going to allow engineers to
With the
merge
engineers.
into.
Sorry, what's
yeah,
the
yeah. So
one
this
that,
would
what's
be.
our, I got confused.
I am
It
calling it
says
like
in progress.
internal testing. Yeah. Yeah, I gathered some requirements and some steps to do around the verification. I was waiting for the critical security release to be out, which already happened. So yeah, it is just a matter of starting the testing.
Does this conflict with other stuff? Like we're about to go into the next like round of releases, right?
Yeah, I don't think so, because we are choosing stable branches that are outside of the policy, so I shouldn't interrupt with any current work in progress about releases.
Oh, okay, great. Because I feel like this is the step that has the most likely impact on the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks of planned work, because what we discover here maybe we discover something huge and we aren't ready for every stage group to adopt this, or maybe we just discover there's some other like use case things that we want to make sure we highlight in our comms to developers or release managers. So I think getting through this internal testing step will basically give us all the information we're going to need for the next few weeks.
Yep.
Cool. How confident are you feeling about I guess about the rollout to developers? So for the kind of beta, how confident do we feel that we've got everything sorted out on our side, and like we've thought of all the, you know, edge cases and things like that, and that we're ready for like every stage group to start using this?
I'm feeling considerably confident. From my perspective, we need to ensure that our tooling is working as it used to be with the internal testing. We do need to do some announcements to developers to make sure that they know about this process. And I'm excited about this because it will gather feedback about the process and things that we can improve. So yeah, I think we are in a good track for opening the stable branches for 15.10, which will be March 22nd.
Awesome. Great stuff. Cool. So 5, I'm going to suggest we drop once we've got the new retro actions, but since that's on me, we'll go through them. Does anyone have any additional collaboration requests that they need in the next week or so? Nope. Perfect. Is there anything else that we should discuss? Does anyone need anything? No. I would say just the only thing, I think, Alessio, you might not be affected, but Steve, just in case you are, as you go into release management on Thursday, do expect that will be 100% of your time. Hopefully it won't, but anticipate it will. And get all the things, either, you know, stick an update on issues, like pause on those, like hand those back to Myra, if there's still outstanding work, right? Like maybe you can do other stuff as well, but I think at least for the first week or two, it's safer to assume that you won't have any extra capacity.
Definitely.
Cool. And Alessio and I actually chatted about this morning. The other thing, which I'll just show in this demo, we are entering a period of extraordinary low capacity in our team. So do just be aware of this. So obviously with Steve, Alessio, you two in release management, I'm assuming that's going to take up 100% of your time for the next milestone. So Myra, hopefully you'll still have people to give you reviews, but we may also need to lean on Ruben as well if you do need reviews to come through. We do also have Graham around. He will be a little bit involved, of course, with some of the release management tasks, but he is also here. Now, I do know that Graham has a Ruby task coming up in the releases work, but he's aware that it's going to have to just queue up. It's like third priority behind release management and maintenance policy. So I think he is going to put it on the board when he's ready, but we'll have to just pick that up when we get time in amongst our other projects. Nice. Cool. In which case, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to shout, I will give you all some time back. Thank you very much for the demos and discussions. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.